Chapter 2. Leaving Again. "No one's here!" Annie shouted down. Jack thought about going home, and then he thought about all the books in the treehouse. He started up the ladder, and when he was nearly to the treehouse, he saw the light in the distant sky. Dawn was starting to break. He crawled through the hole in the floor and took off his backpack. It was dark inside the treehouse. Annie was shining her flashlight on the books scattered about. "They're still here," she said. She stopped the light on the dinosaur book. It was the book that had taken them to the time of the dinosaurs. "Remember the Tyrannosaurus?" asked Annie. Jack shuddered. Of course he remembered. How could anyone forget seeing a real, live Tyrannosaurus Rex? The light fell on the book about Pennsylvania. A red silk bookmark stuck out of it. "Remember the picture of Frog Creek?" said Annie. "Of course," said Jack. "That was the picture that brought them home." "There's my favorite," said Annie. The light was shining on a book about knights and castles. There was a blue leather bookmark in it. Annie turned to the page with the bookmark. There was a picture of a knight on a black horse. He was riding towards a castle. "Annie, close that book," said Jack. "I know what you're thinking." Annie pointed at the knight. "Don't, Annie." "We wish we could see this guy for real," Annie said. "No, we don't," shouted Jack. Then they heard a strange sound. It sounded like a horse neighing. They both went to the window. Annie shined the flashlight down on the ground. "Oh, no," whispered Jack. "A knight," said Annie. "A knight in shining armor, riding a black horse through Frog Creek woods." Then the wind began to moan. The leaves began to tremble. And it happened again. "We're leaving!" cried Annie. "Get down!" The wind moaned louder, the leaves shook harder, and the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Jack squeezed his eyes shut, and then everything was still. Absolutely still. Jack opened his eyes. He shivered. The air was damp and very cold. The sound of a horse whinny came back again from below. "I think we're here," whispered Annie. She was still holding the castle book. Jack peeked out the window. A huge castle loomed out of the fog. He looked around, and the treehouse was in a different oak tree. And down below, the knight on the black horse was riding by. "We can't stay here," said Jack. "We have to go home and make a plan first." He picked up the book about Pennsylvania. He opened it to the page with the red silk bookmark. He pointed to the photograph of the Frog Creek woods. "I wish—" "No!" said Annie. She yanked the book away from him. "Let's stay. I want to visit the castle." "You're nuts. We have to examine the situation," said Jack. "First, from home." "Let's examine it here," said Annie. "Come on." He held out his hand. "Give it to me." Annie gave Jack the book. "Okay. You can go home. I'm staying," she said. She clipped the flashlight onto her belt. "Wait," said Jack. "I'm going to take a peek. A tiny peek," she said, and she scooted down the ladder. Jack groaned. Okay, she won again. He couldn't leave her behind. Besides, he sort of wanted to take a peek himself. He put the book down about Pennsylvania, and he dropped the castle book into his backpack. He stepped onto the ladder, and he headed down into the cool, misty air.